And at that split second, I didn't want to come back. I did not want to go back. I was arguing to that point that I need to go back. It's not my time to die. The second I saw that light, I did not want to go back. I did not want to go to the light. I wanted to go into the light and meld with the light and become one with that light.
You were an Army Ranger, a very elite military group that does special operations. So a pretty tough military guy. I know that you're not used to sharing your emotions, certainly not publicly.
You mentioned that I told you the story recently, and it was emotional for me to tell you that story.
It was.
And I said, okay, I got that out of the way, so now it'll be easy to tell the story without the emotion. I cannot recall that light without that love.
This is Beyond with Heather Tesch, where we examine near-death experiences and life itself, hopefully making this life a little better.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to my guest, John Bushyhead.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
John, I am so excited to have you here, and I'm really thrilled to share your story with my audience. I heard your story, and I was so moved by it. And I have to say that you really had no intention of sharing your story publicly, but we have a mutual close friend. And so I think between the two of us, we were able to talk you into sharing it, which I'm very happy about. And I want to set the stage too, because you have a very impressive resume, both civilian and military. You have a secret military clearance. You're a very trustworthy person. And I think that's important for our audience to know before we start. And let's just jump right in, John. Share your story and what happened to you. It's pretty incredible.
Well, this goes back to when I was at Florida State University in the early 80s. And I was married at the time. I was a teenager when I got married. And I was going back and forth to class. I was an athlete there. So I wasn't doing drugs or drinking, and especially this particular night. Paid close attention to my health. And so that wasn't an influence in what happened in this experience. And I found myself, this will sound bizarre because if I was hearing somebody tell me this, I would think it's kind of bizarre, but I found myself in a spiritual place where I lacked spirituality. I wasn't experiencing religion. And so I would literally pull up to, I could tell you the red light it is at Florida State on the main drag there. As I'm returning from class on a daily basis for about a 2-week period, I would come to this one intersection, this one red light, or maybe a series of red lights within a few hundred meters of each other. And I would say, God, give me some sign that the Bible is real, that you exist. How can I believe? I was literally saying these words. How can I believe a book that was written 2,000 years ago? Give me some kind of sign. I know that sounds bizarre, and I was probably thinking that at the time, but I was alone in the car. It's like somebody will sing in the car, but you won't sing in front of somebody. So I was saying that. Give me some kind of sign you exist. Give me some kind of sign that the Bible's real. And I did this for a couple of weeks. It was just, I never thought anything would come from it. Well, something came from it, because after about a couple of weeks of doing this, I go into my bedroom. My wife is in bed. She's asleep. And the bedroom is such that it's not a big bedroom, but the doors, you enter the door, it's a small painted white walls. There's a window at the head of the bed, and the foot of the bed is towards the door. And so I turn off the light, and as soon as I laid down and put my head on the pillow, the split second my head hit the pillow, I hear a voice. And of course, that freaked me out. And it's coming from the wall, from the left side of the bed. Now, the foot of the bed is there, the window's there. There's white wall here. Now, you can see a little bit of illumination from the white wall. As you know, you could be in a bedroom, but you can see a little illumination from the white paint. You can make out the wall. I'm looking for somebody over there. I'm hearing a voice. I couldn't make out the words the voice was saying. It sounded something like, well, it sounded like, well, I could tell it was a language and somebody speaking, but I couldn't make out any words. And it was, frankly, it was scary, because I could look over and all I could see is a white wall, and there's a voice talking to me from that white wall. And I was looking for a physical entity such that I could justify hearing that voice in my ear moving towards me. And it was moving towards me. It was getting closer. And the closer it got, and the more it talked, the more terrified I became. I'm staring at the white wall, trying to see something, a physical entity. And I reach with my right hand, grabbing for my wife to wake her up. And I just happened, by happenstance, to grab her by the throat. I wasn't trying to grab her by the throat. I was just trying to, hey, get her attention. And I grab her by the throat while I'm staring at the white wall in terror. Terror. It was scary. And suddenly, as it approached me, it grabbed hold of me, my spirit. It grabbed me spiritually and took me out of my body. And it's bizarre because it's almost like it just melded with my spirit and took me. The whole time it kept making those language kind of sounds. It was saying something. I couldn't understand anything. I couldn't discern any of the words. And as I separated from my body, as my spirit separated from my body, I remember protesting that I realized what was happening. I literally just died because my spirit separated from my body. So I remember arguing with this spirit that it is not my time to die. I can't go now. I can't go now. It is not my time to die. And as I separated from my physical body, I could literally feel my physical body lose life. And it was as if it was a slab of beef on a table. It was literally like that. A hunk of bacon on a table. It was just a physical shell of nothingness. And me, I was being taken up through this dark tunnel by this entity. And at some point, I recognized who this entity was. It was one of my great-great-great-grandfathers, Reverend Jess Bushyhead. How I knew this, I don't know, but I know that as sure as I know I'm talking with you face to face here. I knew it was him. I can't explain it. I just knew it. And I continued my protest all the way through this pitch black tunnel. It's not my time to die. It's not my time to die. You know, I just get emotional because nothing really gets me emotional, but for some reason this story always gets me. But I continued protesting like that. And suddenly the black tunnel ended. And at that split second it ended, there was a shining light a shimmering light. I would say the size of a high-ceilinged living room wall. A shining light, shimmering. I've never seen a light like that on Earth that man has been able to recreate or present. So I can't really compare it to anything other than a shiny, shimmering, sparkling. And at that split second, I didn't want to come back. I did not want to go back. I was arguing to that point that I need to go back. It's not my time to die. The second I saw that light, I did not want to go back. I did not want to go to the light. I wanted to go into the light and meld with the light and become one with that light. And the second that happened, I came back. And I'm lying in bed in total shock. Well, at that point, I don't think I was in shock. I was trying to regain my physical being. I'm trying to scream my wife's name to get her up, to turn on the light. I'm trying to shake my hand. Nothing would move. It's like I was totally paralyzed. It's as if I had left and coming back, and my spirit was regaining control of my body and re-entering my body. I don't know how else to explain my paralysis. But finally, I felt a toe twitch. And then I was screaming, turn on the light, turn on the light. But all that came out, and she'll tell you this, all that came out was, that's me was voicing, turn on the light. And finally, I could twitch an index finger on her neck. And the whole time, I'm screaming, turn on the light. And all she can hear is, while I'm twitching my finger and twitching my toe. Internally, psychologically, I'm jumping up, I'm screaming, I'm shaking her, I'm trying to stand up. She jumps up, goes to the end of the bed by the door, turns on the light to the room, comes to the side of the bed, with this kind of expression, what's going on? What happened? And at that point, I was literally in shock because of what I just experienced. I just stared for, I don't know how long, a few seconds, 30 seconds. Just stared in shock. Didn't even look at her, just like this, like that just happened. I slowly sat up in bed, and I had tears strolling down my eyes, my cheeks, from my eyes. And the tears were not from this or that or the other. It was literally only from the power of the love I felt from that shimmering light. It's not earthly. The power of that love was so overwhelming, it sweeps you away. It's not earthly. And the only time I had ever had a slight tinge of a taste of that love was during my most spiritual moments of my life that were intermittent and rare, but it's just a little tinge of that kind of love. Well, this was a shimmering ball of love and light. It's so overwhelming. It just brings tears to your eyes. You don't ever want to leave. So at that moment, at that moment, I realized time will cause me to doubt the reality, the realness of what just happened. I'll start to question it. 10 years, 5 years, 1 year, 30 years. And I swore at that time, at that moment, I will never allow the passage of time cause me to question the realness and reality of what just happened. And so, I guess stunning effect is a good word for it. But the next day, I was seeking answers, So the next day, I go to the there's in Tallahassee, in the state capitol building, it's on a hilltop, and beside it there's a church. So I knew about that one. So I went and sought out some church, a preacher, or somebody to tell me, help me figure this out. Help discern what just happened. And I go in and I meet the preacher. He was a short little fellow, and I was a college student. And I explained to him what happened. And, he sort of disappointed me in that he said, well, the Lord works in the Lord works in mysterious ways, come to the church and participate. And that wasn't what I was seeking. I was seeking what happened. And so I didn't go back there. But that's essentially it. I've never had that experience since then. I can't explain it. It happened. It was real. And I feel it was a gift that I was given. And I have no idea what I did to deserve that gift, or if it was just maybe, my ancestor deserved that gift. And I have no idea why I was given that gift. But that's what happened.
John, you kept saying that you weren't ready to die until you experienced the light. So what was it about the light?
That light was love. It's not earthly love. It was spiritual love. And I can't explain it, but that's what it was. And that light was so powerful. It's just not of this earth. It's not a love people can experience on this earth. It was totally spiritual. And I have no idea if it was what we define as Jesus, the Holy Ghost, God, a representative of God. But that love is so powerful, it causes these tears. That's how powerful the love was.
I have to let people know, too, that you were an Army Ranger, a very elite military group that does special operations. So a pretty tough military guy. I know that you're not used to sharing your emotions, certainly not publicly. Now, you did not go into the light. You wanted to go into the light. What do you think you'll experience someday when you finally go into the light?
Well, there can be no greater gift than going into that light. I think just trying to relate my humanness to what I experienced that day, I think that is the essence of life and God and love. And in a spiritual form, you just sort of become part of it, if God gifts you that. He gave me a taste, and I have no idea if I'm going to be melted into that light when my time comes, or what I did to deserve that taste. But I think that's what the spiritual message is for us where we are in the physical realm. That's what we should strive to achieve, in that level of love as much as we can in our physical form. But yeah, it was just love. It was just love. And, you say it's love. Okay, we know love. I love my wife. I love my children. This is something off the charts. This is another otherworldly love, a level such that it is really unachievable in our physical realm. And that's probably the best way I could describe it. Yeah, I wanted to go into that light. And I wanted to meld and melt and be part of that light. And the power of it's just so overwhelming. I can't tell this story, that part of that story, without getting teary. That's how powerful it is. And no, I don't share my emotions. But this one gets me every time.
When you saw your body, it was like a slab of meat to you. So how did this change your perspective on who you are?
Oh, well, I've been in combat several times. And, one thing that makes you effective in combat is you come to terms with your own death and you accept your own death. It makes you more effective in combat. Well, it makes it a lot easier when you do not fear death. And after this experience, I have no fear of death, none. And I almost view it as, this is a suffrage moment. God, we're a spiritual entity on a physical journey as opposed to a physical entity on a spiritual journey. And so that's what it drove home to me. I fear no death. I'm not so much looking forward to, for example, a car accident, losing my leg and bleeding out slowly. That's not, I'm not saying that, nobody wants to experience that part. Nobody looks forward to that, but I have no fear of death because of this, because I know what's on the other side.
You asked to see this. Do you now feel a greater responsibility on how you live your life now that you were given this gift of seeing this?
Yeah, and I feel I often fall short because it's just too easy to get, time passes, you start getting caught up in the physical realm and, paying the bills and doing the work and, buying the house and paying off the house and and raising the kids. And you just get probably you're less focus on the spiritual part. And I think it takes effort to focus on the spiritual part, but I always harken back. I told you this story. You mentioned that I told you this story recently, and it was emotional for me to tell you that story.
It was.
And I said, okay, I got that out of the way, so now it'll be easy to tell the story without the emotion. I cannot recall that light without that love. That's just the power of that love and light. And the light was love. So it's the power of the love that is on the other side. I guess that's the best way to describe it.
Do you think we are all from that light and that we will all eventually return to that light? And it's okay. It's okay to say, I don't know, if you don't know.
Well, no, I don't know, but it makes sense when you articulate it that way. It makes sense because otherwise nothing makes sense. Where'd we come from? And what's afterwards? And, so it makes sense when you articulate it that way. So do I know? No, I don't know, but it felt that was so real. Now, I had done no alcohol that night, no drugs. I was an athlete. I was an athlete at Florida State. I was healthy and no mind altering anything. And this happened.
When you were at the stoplight, you wanted to know more about God. You wanted to know about the Bible. So did your faith change at all after you had this experience? And if so, how did it change?
My spirituality changed. I separate religion from spirituality. And I view religion now as a mechanism to reach spirituality or to enhance spirituality. So I don't poo-poo religion. But I separate the two. I consider myself very spiritual because I had the experience. I fully believe I experienced it. I can't deny what happened. Man-made religion is a whole different issue for me. Now, that doesn't mean I can't go to a religious service and feel the spirituality, as that's what they're trying to achieve. What ruins it for some people is the abuse of that religious aspect. It's like when I went to the preacher. He had never had this experience. He couldn't talk spiritually to me. He could talk religious to me, but he couldn't talk spiritually. And that's what I was looking for, my spiritual connection, my spiritual answer, my spiritual reason, my everything about my spirit. What just happened? That was all spiritual. That had nothing to do with religion that night. But I think I would just say, for anybody struggling with the religious aspect, maybe you had a bad experience with the wrong church. There might be a right church out there that, and I'm not pushing anybody to religion, but just for me recently, my girlfriend took me to her church, and it was the right church because I get spiritually moved in that church where I had been turned off to other religious church experiences for one reason or another. So that helps bridge my spirituality. Now, and I think that's an enhancer. So I would just say, if you have a bad experience, as I have had with some religious man-created churches, etc., I wouldn't necessarily give up on that, because what you're looking for is the one you connect with that gives you that spiritual bridge. And yeah, I'm spiritual because of what happened. I can never deny that. But there is a mechanism religion serves for me. Religion can be mechanical, where you feel no spirituality involved, you just go through the motions, or it can be mechanical and spiritual, and you feel that connection between the two. It's a bridge. So that's the way I look at it now. But yeah, spirituality, man, I have no doubt. And there have been times when I can't explain it other than just tell you, I've been in a place where, for example, I feel the presence of an evil spirit. So my philosophy is, or my belief is, based on my experience, if they're positive, and I verified, my experience verified there are positive spirits, well, then that sort of drives home the point that there are evil spirits also. The yin-yang thing. So I have been in a room, even my bedroom, I'm sleeping, and I felt an evil presence. I just felt it, get goosebumps or whatever, and I just start reciting the Lord's Prayer like a shield. This may sound weird too, but I do. And every time that evil spirit feel of an evil spirit's presence subsides. And it's rare, but it happens maybe once a year, twice a year, once every 2 years. But I've felt that. And I feel like that Lord's Prayer is my shield. And again, I'm not religious per se. I wouldn't qualify myself as a religious person. I qualify myself as a spiritual person. And I'm open to religious experiences that may be able to bridge those two realms. And not all churches can. So, I had a bad experience that drove me from the church for years. The hypocrisy in some areas. But you get the right group, you get the right spiritually led group, that's a whole different animal. They've got to get you to spirituality, not some mechanical process that you don't feel the love and the spirituality, because it's all about real love. Because that's what that light was.
I think that's a very important message that a lot of people need to hear, because a lot of people have been turned off by negative experiences. One thing, when we were talking the other day and you shared your story, I mentioned to you, and speaking of, connecting with other spiritual people, I mentioned IANDS to you, the International Association for Near-Death Studies. And I was telling you about their conference, And I was really touched because I could see how it really warmed your heart to find out, wow, there are other people that have had this that I could connect with.
Yeah. Well, you almost feel like a nut telling people this happened. And, it's like hearing a Sasquatch story. Some are ridiculous, and some you say, these are really based individuals that are telling this experience, and it sounds so real. And when those guys get together, they have that, so I'm thinking, if I could meet other people who have seen this light and had that tunnel experience and had that spiritual journey and experience, oh my God, we would just be like, there's a bond, like going through combat together. You bond. You see guys getting back together 30, 40, 50 years later. It's a very emotional, spiritual experience for them too. But yeah, there's just something about meeting other people who know the secret handshake kind of thing. They've been there, they've done that, they had that unique, and everybody else can say, yeah, okay, I hear you, but they haven't had the experience. They know. And my God, I never thought about meeting and interacting with other people who've had the experience. And it really was, I realized then what it would mean to me.
I go every year, as you know, so you and our mutual friend Samantha will have to join me one of these years. I know this year, 2025, it's in Chicago, but there is a conference every year and they change locations. And it really is a wonderful experience. I haven't had a near-death experience, and I still just feed off of just the love and the connections of, being around my people. And I'm sure that you'll experience that too if you join me one of these years.
That would be an honor. And I would look forward to meeting my peeps. I call them my peeps now that you mentioned that. People who have had this experience, because it's just otherworldly. And, there's this kind of connection I can already feel. If I was to meet people who had this, I'd be like, oh my God, that you know it, you felt it, you did it. And there's no questioning this between us, there's no, yeah, it sounds, okay. Yeah, you saw a Sasquatch too? Yeah, none of that, It's like, if the Sasquatch thing is real, for example, those who have really legitimately had that experience know and understand and feel, and there's no question between them, but until you've literally had the experience, there's always an iota of doubt. Well, with those kind of people, there would be no iota of doubt between us. And so that would be meaningful to me.
Tell us a bit more about your escort, because he was actually a key figure in history, a great, great, great grandfather of yours. So why do you think he was potentially your escort?
Well, my grandfathers were 3 straight generations of principal chiefs of the Cherokees. And so when the relocation of the Cherokee Indians happened from the southeast to Oklahoma, we're talking from Oklahoma, the third party was led by Reverend Bushyhead. He was known as the only Cherokee Indian who could move in the Indian Territory without a weapon. So he was loved and trusted by the tribe. And I really think, leading the third party of the Trail of Tears, John Ross and Reverend Bushyhead. And so I really think there's some kind of connection between why I was gifted this experience, a taste of it, just, why I was gifted this. Otherwise, why me? Just some college student sitting at a red light saying, hey, can you give me a sign? It's like you stop at a red light and you sing a song, you hope nobody's looking. We've all done that. You have a moment. Well, it's the same kind of feeling. You're sitting there at the red light. You're almost like singing a song with hoping nobody. Hey, God, can you just give me a sign? It was that empty, but it was real. I wanted it, but I had no spiritual basis to ask for this. I had no religious basis to ask for this. It was coming from more of a place of emptiness. And so what did I do to deserve it? So I'm thinking maybe it was him that deserved it. And that's a gift they gave me through him, because of him and his status and his spirituality. And maybe it was a gift to Reverend Jess instead of me. And so that sort of makes sense. Otherwise, why me? And what did I do to deserve that unimaginable, priceless gift?
That's a very interesting way to consider, why this happened to you. You saw your great-great-great-grandfather. You saw the light. I'm curious, and of course you went through the tunnel. Was there anything else that you saw around you? Is there a way to describe what was there?
Now that you mention that, it was almost like there was a I can make out a spiritual being. I don't know if we call it spiritual. It was almost like a lit kind of, it's not a human form, but it was like this entity of, I don't know, call it mist or what, but I can make out something there that was attached to me. And I was in the same form. I guess you'd call it the spirit being. But I was in the same form as I was going through this. I mean, the blackest black you can imagine. It wasn't like a dark tunnel. This was like the blackest black one could imagine. And so there's that aspect that I could recognize a shimmering, not shimmering, a lighted form, maybe a mist, probably better to say, more of a mist, but a formative mist. And I was in the same form, so I was going through the black tunnel. And when that black tunnel ended, I mean, it was like it cut off a finger. I mean, that's how fast that light ended, and that overwhelming power of that light just hit you. And you had no desire to go back. And the shining, the shimmeringness of it was just breathtaking. It just radiated love, not of this earth.
It's interesting that you describe just the blackest black, because I've heard so many people say that. And then whether they see the light then, or even sometimes they call out to, ask to see the light, or are calling out to God, then that light shows up. So it's an aspect of many near-death experiences. And I don't know if you know that, because I have a feeling you haven't really listened to many near-death experiences.
Well, after that happened, I was getting my hamstring worked on at Florida State University Medical Center. I torn a hamstring, my workout stuff. And as I was laying there on the table, I noticed a TV with Reader's Digest. And the headlines on the front said, "Life after death, 2,500 documented cases of life after death," etc. So I pick it up and open it. This is shortly after my experience. And there were 2,500 documented cases of people dying on the operating table, confirmed by the doctor, dead, that came back to life, but they had this experience.
John, this is a real synchronicity here, because I remember that Reader's Digest article, because that was one of the first things I saw about near-death experiences. And I wrote a college paper on it. And that was, I remember one of the, you have different references and things. And that was one of the sources I had in my college paper. So we probably both saw that same article. Maybe there were multiple articles in different years in Reader's Digest, but I remember that very well. It kind of opened my eyes to all of this as well.
Yeah. And that just, that was me. That was my experience. I was there, but I didn't die on an operating table. I didn't temporarily die or die at all in a car accident or in combat or and then get revived. I was somehow gifted this by Reverend Jess coming into my room, grabbing me and showing me the light. For 2 weeks, I was asking for this. Not Reverend Jess. I'm just saying, God, it was almost ridiculous. Stop at a red light. You might as well be singing a song, but it was that kind of ridiculousness, God, please, I would literally do this at the light, at the stoplight. God, just give me some kind of sign. I would literally say it like this. Just give me some kind. How can I believe a book written 2,000 years ago? God, hands on the steering wheel. Just give me some kind of sign. And oh my God, he gave me a sign. I don't know how else to explain it. That happened.
And just as a side note, Reverend Bushyhead was a Baptist minister while he was here on earth. Is that correct?
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. He wrote the Cherokee alphabet with the sequoia.
John, there's somebody out there that's listening that has either lost a loved one or they themselves are facing their own mortality. What would you share with them about what they will likely see when they do pass over, or what their loved ones are experiencing?
It's my belief that the loved ones are not the ones that have passed, do not want to be back here. They love you, but they don't want to be back here. They don't even contemplate coming back here. They're where they want to be and need to be and desire to be. And the real suffering are those left behind. And because they're not in touch with that. So I would suggest to you that this is temporary here. And your ones that have passed on, your relatives that have passed on, or friends who have passed on are where they want to be. They're surrounded by love. They are love. They're in a spiritual realm, and you have nothing to worry about. And when you go there, just try to be the best person you can be. So God will let you in there too. Because that's where you want to end up. And I don't know about the heaven hell thing. I don't know. I just know I know there's good and evil. That's undeniable. You can see it in the human form, but just strive to be the best person you can be and roll with it. Because, and if you do that, I think this is just my feelings and theory based upon my experience with that spiritual realm. I think if you just try to be the best person you can be, then, you'll meet that. I can't imagine what happens to evil people if they're not gifted that, or is there an opposite of that spiritual light where you go into darkness, and is that forever? I don't know any of that. But I would suggest you get in touch with your spirituality. I look at a tree, I see spirituality. I look at the sunshine, I see spirituality. I look at clouds and rain, I see spirituality. And because all this is God-given, it comes right from the higher power. I prefer to call it the higher power. And, there is a higher power. So it just seems to me that you keep your nose to the grindstone, drive forward, be the best person you can be, and stay in touch with your spiritual side. Seek your spiritual side, because that's where it's at, man. And whether you use the mechanism of religion or church to get there, and if that helps you, then great. But the whole spiritual realm is what you need to seek. I would suggest to you, they're not suffering. They are not suffering. The suffering's here. Life's tough. There are pros and cons and ups and downs, but that's all love. You're the one suffering by just being in this physical realm. But that's all good. That's all good up there. And you miss them. And it's that part is sad for us, but we're all going to be there soon enough.
John, this happened a long time ago. You were in your 20s. I'm curious, how real was it then, and how fresh is it in your memory now?
I think the best thing I did was recognize that over time I would begin to doubt the reality of what happened, the realness of what happened. And so when I swore during that 24, 48-hour period that I would never allow this to happen, from the moment it happened for days and weeks, I will never doubt the reality, the realness of what just happened. I've never allowed that to happen. Because when I wanted to start thinking, well, no, stop, John, take yourself back. And it's witnessed by the fact of my emotions when I tell that story and take myself back to that light. I can't even think about that light without getting emotional.
It's very touching to hear your story because it does elicit so much emotion from you. You're definitely among the very blessed to have this gift, to have experienced this. And you didn't even have to go through so much trauma that a lot of people have to go through. It really was a gift that the higher power gave to you.
Yeah, it really was. And all I can say is it happened, it was real, and that light it's not earthly. You cannot put it into earthly terms, into human terms, the power of that light. It's like love is love, but then put the sun behind it and that power of that love and put it right in front of your face. That's how powerful that love was. I guess that's the best way to, closer I get to articulating the meaning of it and the feeling of it. That's how powerful that love was. And so when I think back, every time I tell that part of it, I just get tears.
I'm so glad that you have taken the time to talk to us today and to share your story about the light, because I think it makes it more real for all of us that are out there. Uh, Before we go, maybe you could just end by, if there is somebody out there um, trying to understand more about the light, um, just share one more time your experience with it.
Well, it's real, first of all. Real as I'm sitting here in front of you. And I think it's all about love, and getting in touch with your spiritual side and love. And maybe it's love yourself and appreciate you first. Maybe perhaps that's it, where you start becoming one with spirituality. I don't know the answer to that, but I can tell you that spirituality, that light is real. And it's welcoming. At least it was for me, and I wasn't the best person. Still, nobody is. Everybody falls short.
You had doubts too, because clearly that's why you called out, and yet it still welcomed you.
It did. And, I guess a key point for those people you just mentioned was that the only time I ever felt a tinge or a slight taste, speck of that kind of love was when I was really tuned in spiritually and religiously, legitimately. Those moments where I could just sort of slightly taste a speck of that kind of love. So maybe that's the answer. Maybe that's the answer. Try to stay tuned in spiritually, and if you can find the right bridge religiously or just spiritually. I was always, well, for a long time, I was not being religiously involved. I was turned off by it. But I tried to maintain my spirituality, and there's a huge difference. So maybe if I would just reiterate, I think it is helpful and supportive if one could find the right religious structure or church that could bridge that spirituality. And not all churches can. They just can't. So if you can find the one, like Samantha took me to one the other day, the last two weekends, it really talked to me and get me going spiritually. I don't want to leave that now because I finally found a good one. I don't know if it's the evolution of the religious services in this particular case or my evolution, but it really gets me bridged to my spirituality and gets me feeling that love and feeling that light and feeling the love. So I would suggest that's a path forward one can strive for.
John, thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. It's an absolutely beautiful story, and it's been such an honor. I know this is not something you've shared publicly before like this, and
No.
it truly is an honor that you agreed to come on my show and share with my audience.
Well, thank you. I'm honored to be on your show, and I'd only do it for you and Samantha.
I know. You're wonderful.
This is against my character to kind of participate publicly like this, but anything for wonderful people like you and Samantha. So
I know it is against your character. So thank you. Thank you so much. I am just so grateful. And John, I hope you have a wonderful day and make sure you say hello to Samantha for me.
I will do that.
Okay.
Thank you. God bless everyone.
I am so glad that John agreed to come on my show. Like I said, this is not something that he normally does. It's very out of character for him to share something like this publicly. And I'm really grateful that he agreed to come on my show. As I said, he was an Army Ranger. He had secret military clearance. He was a very tough guy. He is a very tough guy. So yeah, it's just not his typical self to share something like this. And I'm really grateful that he did. I appreciated the emotion that he has with his story because I really think it shows the genuineness to everything that he is sharing. So I would love to know your thoughts on the things that we talked about, seeing the light, having his escort, just how much it meant to him. Anything like that, please put that in the comments. I would love to hear that. If you want to, just leave a message for John, or maybe you want to comment about Bubbie, who tends to hang around while I do my podcast. Please share any thoughts like that, or something as simple as saying, I made it to the end. All of your comments mean a lot to me, and I do try to get back to as many of you as I can every single week. It really is a blessing to have all of you taking this journey with me. So thank you so much for that. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like, subscribe if you haven't. And if you know someone who may like this, please share a link with them. Remember, I'll also have a link to all of my other episodes. That will be in the description. Just click the word more, and that opens that up. And then, of course, I have new episodes coming out every single week. So just please come looking for those episodes. They may not show up in your feed, but if you come to Beyond with Heather Tesch, you will see that episode there along with all of my other episodes. So it would be wonderful to have you continue to watch. And by the way, we mentioned IANDS, and for all of you that are in John's situation, maybe you are looking for other people to connect with that are interested in this topic, or maybe you've experienced it and you're interested in connecting with others who have experienced near-death experiences and spiritually transformative experiences. IANDS is a great place for it. You can go to IANDS.org, IANDS.org. It's the International Association for Near-Death Studies. They have a conference every single year. This year, 2025, it is in Chicago. It's August 27th through the 31st. I will be there. I would love to see you. So please If you're a viewer, make sure you come up and say hello to me. I'll be walking around. You'll see me. I usually have a shirt on that says Beyond with Heather Tesch. So you'll be able to pick me out from the crowd. And I'd love to meet you. So consider that. There's lots of great speakers that are there, big names for the keynote speakers, but then also just so many other speakers. Every single day, you will be exhausted by the end of the day because there is so much to do. And you'll listen to so many great folks. And then just connecting with all of the people that you see around you, just saying hello to the person you sit next to for whatever speaker you go to. So it really is a lot of fun. So I encourage that. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. I am so grateful for you. And hopefully I will see you in the next episode.
Thanks for joining me on Beyond with Heather Tesch. Please add comments and questions you'd like future guests to answer. Also, if you liked what you heard, please hit the thumbs up button and subscribe. That'll help keep this podcast going. You can also go to Beyond with Heather Tesch to look for more episodes.